Hello, animal lovers. My name is Arun Shivakumar,
This is Asha Arun.
and welcome to our podcast, India's one and only animal focused food podcast. So, every time, as you know, we get new guests with different profession.
So, today we have a beautiful human who is so passionate about animals, and she is a bovine therapist, and she's also a trainer of bovine therapy from Australia. She's also a animal and human healers. She is also into bark flower remedy. So let's meet her today and talk a lot about what is bovine therapy and what she does, and hear her out and get a lot of information for our animals' well-being. Welcome to our podcast, Nisha. It's so good to have you.
Hope you're doing great today.
Yes, I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, we are doing great.
All
And we were really happy and excited to meet you for the first time, especially at least me meeting you for the first time and understanding about bone therapy, how it works and stuff like that. So I hope you will have great time with us as well today.
Looking forward.
All right. So just to start with, so when I heard this therapy, bovine therapy, I was it looks very fascinating, and that was the first time when I heard when Asha introduced me to you. I would like to know more about what is bovine therapy and how did you get into this field altogether.
So basically, bovine therapy, I just want to first clarify for everybody is that it's BOWEN. A lot of people get confused with bovine, which is BOVINE, which is cows. So bovine therapy is namesake of Tom Boven, for the person who introduced it, and it has been introduced in Australia. It's almost like a 80 to 90-year-old therapy, which was, yes, introduced for humans originally. And then for the last 25 to 30 years, they've been practicing for their animals. And bovine therapy, basically, it is a physical therapy and it works on the soft tissue. So, for a more medical term, it's the fascia. We release the fascia, but more for layman, it is the soft tissue maneuver, and it helps in managing issues like arthritis, paralysis, IVDD, hip dysplasia, and anything which has got to do with the joints, nerves, basically anything to do with the body, the structural body. Yes.
And so you did this from Australia.
Yes, so basically at that point of time when I was looking to do this, the prerequisite was to learn human bovine. So I'm actually a certified human bovine therapist, but I learned it only as a prerequisite. I was never really interested in working with people, no offense, but my passion always lied with the dogs. So I learned human bovine therapy here in India, and then I went to Australia to study, which was a separate college. So this human bovine therapy college, it did not provide animal bovine. So I had to first learn that here, and then I had to go to Australia to learn that.
So meaning you learned human bovine therapy from India, and then we have a separate graduation in Australia.
It's not a graduation. It's like more like how do I say? It's a certified course, but it's not like you go to college because it's a hands-on therapy. So I was actually living with my therapist because we had to work on the dogs, but I was studying alongside with her.
Cool.
But Nisha, I just wanted to ask you, how did you come to know that something like bovine therapy exists?
So it's a very interesting story, I would say. So I was a very avid marathon runner and I would keep getting, all these injuries. So my physiotherapist, who's Dr. Brijesh, I would go to him for physiotherapy, and he was learning bovine therapy, and I would say I was his guinea pig because he said, I'm learning this, let me try, because I was an old client of his. So he actually introduced me to it as a therapy on myself. And I had actually quit my earlier profession and I was looking to do something. So he said that, you're so passionate about dogs, because I was always either, rescuing dogs or collecting funds for friend decos or, something or the other was always happening. So he says, why don't you look this up? And then I started, looking it up, started doing human bovine, and everything just fell in place. So he's actually the one who introduced me to it.
So how does Bowen therapy help any animal? So you are currently working only on the dogs or any animals?
So I can work on horses also. I'm trained for horses, but somehow my it's not really taken off as work because all the farms, everything is very far. So how do I say, logistically it's not worked out for me. I have worked in maybe on a few, but dogs are basically what I'm working on right now, largely. But what I do for dogs is for all small animals. Like I can work on cats, I can work on rabbits, but largely, of course, dogs are my clients. Yeah.
So it is the same kind of therapy what is applicable for all beings, or how is it? Like you're working on dogs and rabbits also. It's like the same thing what you're going to apply for them, or even for humans, I can say. Like, what is the
The
difference?
physiology will be different.
I guess the anatomy will be different, but small animals would have a similar anatomy when we'll see. But humans, of course, will be a different anatomy. And horses are animals, but they're much bigger. Their muscles will be bigger, their body will be bigger. So it will be similar somewhere, but there will be still a difference, on the surface area, I would say. And you would have to stand and work on a horse. You can't sit like, usually like I sit on floor level and work with the dogs. I can't do that. And with horses, you have to be very careful with your safety areas. I have been kicked in the past. So, yeah, I have been. So, I went flying 20 meters. I, yeah, I had a huge bruise, but nothing broken. So, that was good.
You're lucky.
Yeah, yeah. I was lucky, and this was just before my marathon. Yes. But I was lucky.
How would you differentiate Bowen therapy from physiotherapy?
So basically, a Bowen therapy is a physical therapy, I must say that. And it's a completely scientific therapy. Even though it comes under alternate, but it is a physical therapy where, Bowen therapy, the protocol is only once a week. Initially, when I start working with any dog or any animal, it's a once a week protocol. And the biggest difference with physiotherapy would be that a physiotherapist will call you maybe 2 to 3 times initially, when there is a diagnosis or an issue that has, cropped up. So that is your biggest difference. And as far as the time spent that goes into it. Also, when I work with a dog, with Bowen therapy, I am actively working on the dog's body. The dog has no role as such. He just has to sort of cooperate with me, sit with me, whatever. But as far as physiotherapy is concerned, the physiotherapist has to actively work with the dog, maybe work with their muscles or try to activate their hind legs or their forelegs, depending on whatever they have gone for. So that's the biggest difference that we see in these two modalities.
Okay. And even this, I've read about Cairo practitioners. So, what is the difference between
Cairo,
Bowen
I think
and
whatever I have very basic knowledge of, I think it's to do with they move the bones or they maneuver the bones. Bowen that way is a very soft, non-invasive therapy. Even though, see, literally when a layman will look at me working, they'll probably think that it's a massage, but it is not a massage. It looks like that, but I'm just maneuvering the soft tissue. But at that point of time also, when I'm maneuvering the soft tissue, there is blood and oxygen going into all the joints, the tendons, the nerves, so which will help in pain and mobility. So even though it is very gentle on the look of it, its effects are very strong.
I think I also got to know that you're an expert in the pain management. So how does it help in the Bowen therapy?
See, like I said, that when I work on the body, also let me clarify one thing is that, a lot of times I get questioned. For instance, a client has come to me that my dog has hip dysplasia. Now, hip dysplasia means that it's a hip joint, but as a therapist, I will work on the body as a whole. So I always say that we take the body as a whole, we just don't isolate the affected area. Because what happens in the case of hip dysplasia, the dog will be, first of all, not using that leg or that muscle 100% that they're supposed to, and they will start overusing the strong stronger leg or the front legs or the forelegs more. So you have to actually take care of the rest of the body also. When I start working on the body, then, there's blood and oxygen that is going. So those muscles actually then start getting activated. They are able to use it more than they were actually. So then it helps in pain as well. So as long as there is blood flow and oxygen, pain will always be lesser. And actually, this therapy, the dogs who are on this therapy are not largely, I would say, are not on pain meds. Maybe SOS, but we are able to take them off painkillers.
Right. I remember I got my two pugs, Sniffy and Charlie. We took them to Nisha, and I remember Charlie was able to only operate one of his leg, and he was just sitting that day. I was heartbroken, and along with his homeopathy, somebody referred that you go to Nisha.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
I was able to see the difference while
Yeah, and,
he was not using his hind legs much on the slippery floor,
yeah.
but now he's able to use all four legs.
Yeah, but when you say it's on the whole body, I can definitely relate to it because it didn't work only on the arthritic issues. It worked on the whole
see,
body.
also when I work on the surface area of the body, which is the soft tissue, right? At any point of time, all the organs are also getting stimulated. For instance, if I'm working on the spine, underneath you have your kidney, you have your liver, you have your, stomach, and you have your intestine. So everything is actually getting stimulated. So it does help literally on a holistic view. It is just, even though you may come to me for arthritis or you may come for hip dysplasia, but at any given point of time, the entire body is actually being taken care of.
So, meaning you're working on one particular part, but the entire body is getting
Yes, but having said that, or if a client were to call me and say that, okay, my dog has a kidney issue or as a gastroenteritis, then I will not call them for bovine therapy. It may be a good side effect. Eventually, it may help in the gastroenteritis or, maybe in UTI or something. But that will not be my first point of diagnosis for calling, for anybody coming to me.
So how much time does each session takes?
So, over time, I introduced laser also along with bovine because just to talk a little bit about laser is a typically physiotherapy modality. It is a machine, cold laser I use. So I do a combination of bovine and laser, which is about a 40-45 minute session. I think beyond that, it's impossible for dogs to sit even this much. I think it's
Patiently.
yes, it is, and most of them, I've been very lucky. Most of them are very patient, but yes, you do get few who are a little frisky, and so like a human being, you can give them instructions, right? Sit, stand, do it. But with a dog, you have to go with their flow. I can't force it on them.
So in the first session itself, a dog can get to know or decrease his pain.
So, every dog and every body is different. And I always say, so what I usually recommend to my clients is that, because first of all, it's a weekly session, it's not a daily session. I usually recommend that, give me about 5 sessions, like commit to 5 sessions once a week on a, once a week basis. And some dogs will respond after the first session. Now, also, it depends on the age of the body, the dog, what is the issue, and how far out is the issue. Like, sometimes the dogs will come with extremely severe pain, severe arthritis, senior dogs. So, you may feel that, after the first session, they are feeling a little better. But somewhere between, and this is from my own experience, I was not taught that I have to do 5 sessions or, I knew that I have to do once a week sessions. But somewhere with work and with, working with different kind of dogs and with experience, I figured out that somewhere between the first and the fifth, we will create the results. So it can be after the second. Sometimes, very rare cases, it's only by the 5th session. But so I don't put a timeline, but I do say that please, when you have started this, commit to at least 5 sessions.
I think this actually this is quite interesting. So physiotherapy, if there is a session, let's say, as some therapists say, when you have to take a physiotherapy, then it will be continuously every day, correct?
See, largely for dogs, and this is what I've heard from clients. I have never gone to a physiotherapist for my dogs, but I know that they have to visit in the first week at least 3 to 4 times initially, and then I think it comes down to maybe 3 times a week. So some clients of mine manage with Bowen and with physio. So then in the same week, so then maybe they'll cut down the physio to 2 sessions, and Bowen anyways will be always be once
Yeah,
a week.
that's what was my question. So why Bowen therapy is weekly once?
So the premise behind Bowen is, first of all, that the body has the innate power to heal itself. Even though it sounds very, not scientific, but it is a fact. Like, Bowen is a modality, it is a medium. So you work on the body, and the body will start healing itself, wherever it needs to readjust. So you have to give it time. Now, for instance, if I have worked on the dog today, and he will have some aggravations. For instance, I have released a pain point. Now, if I work on the pain point tomorrow again, the body is going to go into shock. It's not going to have time to recover. So the week that we have from session A to B is also a part of the healing time. The body will go through different, how do I say, it'll go up and down with feeling better, then maybe not so good. So it is a part of the process. It's not that randomly I just want to see the dog once a week. It is a part of the healing process of Bowen.
So from the first session, I mean, if the dog is coming with a severe pain, from the first session to second session, if something goes bad, I mean, let's say he's getting more pain, then how do you? I mean, we'll have to
So,
still wait.
actually dealing with the people, it's like, because people get very hassled. Yeah, so that's more challenging actually. So, of course, I always tell them that if there is anything, please just feel free to call me, because, I don't want them to feel that I have just left them in the lurch. So, yes, some dogs get very severe aggravations, so indicating that the body required that kind of intervention, whether it was Bowen or maybe could have been another therapy. So the aggravation period is 24 to 48 hours. The dog will settle in that much time. But I do tell people, just for their sake, so they are a little, calm, is that maybe you can give them homeopathy or like a arnica, which is like for pain, or maybe do a heat pad. But please do not hurry up to give a painkiller. Just be patient. It will settle. Yes, it will settle. And it does settle. So initially I used to get very worked up myself, because, shit, what have I done? Like, I worked on a dog and it's feeling worse. But now I'm calmer myself. I know that this is a part of the process.
Yeah, but I think once you understand how the therapy works, then you will be easygoing. Otherwise, for the first time pet parents, I think they'll go bonkers looking at kuch nahi hua, but they will have thing running in their mind.
Yeah.
Unless they go complete all the sessions, then they will be getting to know, okay, what wonders it would have made, right?
So largely, I would say at least 95% of my clientele has, listened to me and, stuck to those 5 sessions.
I think it's all about the trust on you
And it's been more word of mouth, I would say. So, from one's experience, they say, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. So, it's been, and it has helped. So, I would say that it's.
Yeah, 1%, you're talking about those 1% people who are patient and, patient enough to hear what you're saying and understand the, logics behind it. But the rest of 99%, when they actually probably you wouldn't have, met them yet. So that's when I think all these problems or way to explain them will come up.
See, I think more, it's always easier to work with the dogs. See, because they come with you, they come with their parent, they have trusted that, my parent has got me here and I've come. It's always the human. So, I have over time, every time I have to educate my, client that this is the therapy, this is how it works. And, so it's a part of my, I guess, my job profile.
Right, tell me about it. And we also have the same kind of experience in our boarding, right? Handling dogs in the boarding is very, very easy because they understand. They're very happy as soon as they come. They have space to run, play, and everything. But explaining humans are very, very difficult.
So, Nisha, I just wanted to ask, like Bowen therapy, how safe is this therapy that you want to tell everybody? Is there any side effects that?
So yes, so it's extremely safe. Like I said, it's non-invasive, it's gentle. But yes, there are certain cautions that I would take. I would not work with a dog who has cancer, because, like I said, that when I work on the soft tissue, I am sending out blood and oxygen to all the organs. Now, blood oxygen is like food for cancer cells, right? So I can actually increase while working. So this is one precaution. Like if a dog has had surgery, and the stitches are still there. So there are these. So you have to be very mindful before taking on a dog, that you ask these few questions. Any other illness, if the dog has tick fever, then you don't work on the dog. So there are certain cautions and precautions that one has to sort of take. So the first conversation with the client is always about details about the dog, about the temperament. Because temperament, why I'm saying, is because it is a physical therapy. I am working, I'm touching the dog all the time. Now, some dogs are they're okay with some touch, but it's like a 30, 35, 40-minute session. So, so there are a lot of back and forth questioning that goes as far as the first, maybe the call with the client goes.
Is there any client or any situation you have encountered where the dog is super aggressive, but the dog is also suffering, where the client want to come? And is there any way that they can muscle the dog and get this therapy done?
Yes, so I have a few dogs which I have to muzzle because, like I said, it's, I work on their body, and if there is a pain point, and it is a normal reaction for the dog to sort of, go for my hand, because it's not that they want to bite me, but it's just their way of, sort of protecting that pain area. So most of them will settle with the muzzle. So it's easy for me to work. But if a dog is resistant even after a muzzle, I will never force therapy. It's not that I'm going to pin the dog down, that, I'm working and the pet parent is also sort of, then there's no point, because there is resistance in the body. So it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So I would not be in a situation where I have to force therapy. I have in the past where maybe the parent really insisted, and maybe I have done a session, but post that I have not encouraged it, because it's very stressing for the dog. So it'll do more harm than good, is what I'm going to say
I
about
think
that.
that brings to me thinking that whenever, because a lot of pet parents have problems in raising their dogs, especially making them friendly. So for doctors, it is very easy, muzzle them and then put a shot. But when people wants to go for a holistic approach, if their dog is not helping them or allowing to touch, then that's going to be a bigger problem, right? And I think this is one more probably message or information which everybody needs to understand, that unless you don't want your dog to be a security guard, make
Desensitize them.
desensitize,
For the
socialize the
touch, yeah.
dogs, because you never know what kind of situation you might have to face in your life, right? So if such kind of situation comes and dogs are not helping or cooperating, then actually pet parents are in shock and they're in a very bad state as well.
So actually, some dogs who are very anxious, like a lot of people will say that, my dog gets anxious, new place, etc., etc. So I always say that give it a shot. First of all, that is the only dog that I'll be working at. That's the advantage, right? Like, because I can work only on one dog at a time, so I don't have other dogs around. And even though I have 3 of mine, but they are never around when I am working. So sometimes the first session is only spent where they're sniffing me, or I'm letting them, sort of. So some parents will just say, okay, let's just keep that session for that. So we do that. So, I'm, by the end of it, my aim is to help the dog if I can, to whatever extent. So even if that one session is just about, them getting used to my environment, and to me is fine, so I'm not impatient like that, now you've come, so we have to do a therapy.
That is also part of your job, right? Like, I have seen more of your reels where Nisha auntie ke ghar jana hai, and the dog is like, oh, I will leave. And even my Charlie, like Sniffy Charlie, they know the minute I'm taking out the vehicle out, like they know that, okay, we are going to Nisha's house. And Sniffy always used to be thrilled that he used to get those treats at your place, and they both had this competition. मैं पहले कराऊंगा.
Yeah, so it's if there are two dogs who are coming from the same household, it's an unwritten rule who goes first. So we know that, who's going to go first. There is no two ways about that.
Wonderful.
Any biting incidents till now?
Almost, but got saved. Like it was my jacket. So actually, that led me to ask the question. I never used to ask earlier my clients how the dog, how's the temperament. So this is my. So even though, see, the friendliest dog can turn and bite when there is pain. So, and people who are a little unsure, then I'll say, "Acha, carry a muzzle." I largely don't like to use it. But if yes, we'll use it. If not, then it's fine. We'll, just manage them however. So, because the dog's comfort is priority when it comes to therapy.
So this particular bovine therapy, is this like therapy along with some treatment, or is this going to replace a treatment?
So I cannot replace, like, see, a veterinary's role is unsaid. Like, they have their own medication, they'll provide the supplements and everything. This is just a parallel alternate. And why vets are also recommending it is that, they have seen faster recovery. Now, these are vets who believe that the dog should not be over medicated. They do believe in alternate that, and they are thinking about the well being of the dog. So, because beyond the point in allopathy, for instance, for pain, what can you do? You can only give a painkiller, right? So that eventually long term will affect the kidney and the liver. That will, reduce the lifespan of a dog. The quality of the life will be, much lesser than what we would want. So it is just a parallel. I cannot take over. First of all, I'm a therapist. I'm not a doctor. So, I don't even diagnose. Even though with experience, I may know now with symptoms that what the dog may be facing, but I will always insist for the client to first visit the vet, get me a diagnosis, then I will see. But I will never, like, if people were to see that, you see my dog and you see what's happening, I will never diagnose myself.
So a pet parent shouldn't think that they should avoid doctors and then get a bovine therapy. Along with it, they can come to you and get this therapy also to give a better effect to their kids.
So it's like for humans, right? Like we'll go to our doctors for certain things, but we will also do acupuncture, we will also do bovine therapy, and we'll do acupressure. So, it's just, and they are helpful modalities, but it doesn't take away from the doctor's role. So
do you need any kind of test reports before you start the session, or it's just verbal communication?
So usually I'll see the prescription. Sometimes if there are x-rays, I'll see the x-rays. And, so depending, because in certain kind of conditions like hip dysplasia, there are grades, grade 1 to 4. So, I just need to see what I'm looking at. If it's a ligament tear or it's like an ACL or CCL. So, depending on that, then I can figure out how to, plan my treatment for the dog.
Okay, I think that's a very good topic to discuss about. Hip dysplasia.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, this has become a very common problem.
I say it's become like the plague.
Yeah. At least I see 2 to 3 dogs out of 10 coming up with this problem. So I would like you to explain what is hip dysplasia and the grades, the stages of it, and how bovine therapy can help.
So hip dysplasia is basically a genetically predisposed issue. The dog is born with it. Now, sometimes it can be that, the symptoms may show up or may not show up immediately. But by and large, now I'm seeing more and more that in the young dogs, especially in golden retrievers, I'm seeing dogs as young as 4 months, 6 months, 7 months. And it's no longer just one hip. It's a bilateral issue. So it's also got to do with, I would say, overbreeding And also, I think what we do is that we separate the puppies very early from the mothers, so that they are forced to use our environment, like, the slippery floors. A lot of people are not aware that you should not make puppies jump or, run, because the bones are still soft. So it can show up in different, with various symptoms, like, bunny hopping, where they'll, do like hopping like that. They won't be using both the legs to, alternate. And also when they sit, then one of the legs would be probably outside the body's structure. They won't sit square. Or maybe they'll need, like a wall to sit, to support. They can't sit on their own. They'll keep slipping. And even while getting up, they may show some indication of pain, or, or may wince, or they can be some kind of limping. So, hip dysplasia basically has 4 grades, 1 to 4, 4 being the highest. 4 usually requires surgery, because the hip joint and the socket are quite far off. So there is no way of managing that without intervention. I have managed dogs from grade 1 to 3, which, having said that, I cannot reverse. Bovine therapy cannot reverse any condition. It can only help you manage those conditions, where it's not that the hip socket joint will, get okay, or will be go back to its original form. But whatever the symptoms are, it will reduce. Like the limping will reduce, the pain will reduce. You will see that the dog is more active, or is putting more weight on that leg. So that's how this works. So it's just, a reversal is not possible in any of these conditions.
So meaning any stage, like 1, 2, and 3, if the dog is in these stages, he cannot move to 2 or 1 if he is in 3, but in 3 itself he can do a pain management, and it might not go to 4. Is that what you're saying?
No, so I think they are born with certain kind of grades. It's not that it will become. Yes, of course, if you keep, if you don't intervene and don't take care of the issue, then it will become arthritic and it will degenerate. But I think they are born with certain grades and it stays there. But the joint can degenerate and be worse for the dog, where, the mobility will be affected.
So Bowen therapy can delay the 4th stage, is what can I say? If a dog is already in stage 3 and they have started getting Bowen
No,
therapy.
so I mean to say that if the dog has stage 3, it will remain at stage 3. It doesn't go up to stage 4. The dog, so either they have grade 1, or they have grade 2, or they have grade 3 or grade 4. So it doesn't go up from grade 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
Oh, I thought it will actually, with time, it keeps increasing.
No, so what will increase is the degeneration. What will increase is the pain. What will increase is the arthritic changes. The arthritis may set in much earlier, for a dog. So that is what can happen if one is not taking care of the issue.
When you say degeneration, would you like to just explain to us?
Degeneration would mean that, there could be, how do I say, the bone density starts, setting in, or you need to take care of with arthritic related supplements much earlier than required. Usually arthritis earlier was related to a certain age, right? Like if the dog was in a maybe mid years, or maybe getting to senior years, but now it's becoming earlier. Now you're seeing dogs as early as 3 and 4 who have like slight arthritic, changes that have set in. So everything has now started becoming earlier for dogs. So
does this obesity also helps getting arthritis at early?
yeah, it's a huge. So like earlier when I was talking, that when I work with bovine, I work on the whole body. I always tell my clients that when we take care of the dog, we take care at a holistic view. It has to be, weight has to be under control. There has to be good nutrition. The floors have to have traction. It should not be slippery. And of course, good supplements. So, and, there's therapy or physiotherapy, whatever you are taking. So it has to be, see, overweight will have a direct, effect on the joints. So, if there is excess weight, the joints will start, taking more. And if you see in dogs like Labradors, the bodies are big, but the limbs are slim. So you can just imagine the kind of weight that they have to, bear on those limbs as if the weight is more.
So from this stage 1, 2, and 3 categories, what you're talking about, how many sessions they might need to manage their grades or delay the pain or
So I think mostly, other than if there is paralysis, it stays as the protocol of the first 5 sessions. Now, what will happen in the first 5 sessions when they'll keep coming to me for these 5 weeks is that whatever the existing symptoms of that dog with hip dysplasia, you may see that the frequency of limping may, is not as much as it used to be. The dog is maybe able to, get up easier and maybe is not in pain and doing activities that they had stopped doing. So these are parameters that we are seeing that the dog is improving. After the 5th session, it's not that the limping will magically disappear. It may happen, may not happen as much as it used to. After that, I will increase the gap to 10 days. Yes, then because Boven is a sustainable therapy. It's not that I have worked with the dog for those 5 sessions and after that the body will reverse or regress. It will not happen. We will first then take a gap of about 10 days. Then if we see that the body has not regressed in any way, then I will see the dog at 2 weeks. So in this way, we are able to increase the gap between each session where there is a management plan. Why eventually you come to me once in 3 weeks, once a month. Once a month is what I largely say, that please don't, go beyond that. But I have dogs who come once in 2 months also, but they are doing fine. They may have symptoms, but never the symptoms that we started out. So we never go to the first level. It'll always be a improved state of the body.
Yeah, because I'm asking you, my question is regarding dysplasia because this is the most commonly.
Yes, it's very common. It's literally every
And-
second dog at this point.
yeah,
of time.
and many vets are also not able to reverse it. But sometimes when it goes for allopathy, they have to keep giving those supplements or medications for
See,
lifelong.
supplements are something that I also do think that they require because those are deficiencies of the body. Now, Boven can help in pain and in mobility, but I can't fulfill the deficiencies, right? So that is something a supplement as a support would be required. But yes, my aim is that to get the dog off painkillers. That is, I work with that.
In other words, I will take my words back. So when I said supplements, I was actually thinking in my mind that ये painkillers जो होता है ना, जैसे Carodil दे दिया 25, 50 and all that stuff. So ज़्यादा limp किया, then please give that. So that goes for the lifelong. So those medication actually reduces pet's life also, because in the long run, those painkillers are, pressurizing the multiple organs. So that's where
I always tell my clients, SOS, if you need to give the painkiller, please don't keep the dog in pain. For instance, if I'm not around, if they're traveling, the dog is with them. So as a backup, keep it. But largely I've seen that dogs have not required. So that's why I say that Boven is a sustainable therapy.
So don't make it a habit of painkillers, giving painkillers, but SOS, as a SOS, you can keep.
Yeah, because sometimes for instance, if a dog has had very severe inflammation of, arthritis and, I've still not started the therapy. And initially they do need to take anti-inflammatories, which is fine because the body needs to, I can't work on a body which is in extreme pain. Now, on an extremely painful body, if I start maneuvering the soft tissue, they will not like it. So you need the body to be a little relaxed. The dog has to be little less in pain to start the process. So, yes, the anti-inflammatories do have a role to play. But yes, let's not make it the only way to manage pain.
So when the hip dysplasia dogs comes in, so you will be working mainly on the back side, the rear part of the hind legs only, right? You're not.
No, it's a holistic. Every time I work on the entire body. Entire body, yes. I may focus more on the hip, but at any given point of time, it will be a complete body therapy.
So based on the problem, you stress on that particular point, but you will be still working on the entire
Yes,
body.
yes. Because the weak area will also lead to, overuse of the stronger areas, right? Like the other hip, then the forelegs, the spine. So you have to take care of those as well. Otherwise, the next thing that you know that you are dealing with injuries in the other part of the bodies.
I remember when I got Sniffy first time, he visibly there was no problem when I got my elder pug Sniffy. Charlie had problem, but I thought of managing his hind legs also. So when I got him, you just when you were working on his shoulders, you said that he's using his front legs too much because his hind is weak. But you have not seen the limp. That's how you don't know that he has pain in hind legs. But when you were working on his shoulder, he was showing a little symptoms
Yes.
of
So,
pain.
so in a
So
lot of cases, even though we are dealing with, hip dysplasia or arthritis of the hind, etc., but shoulders is something that dogs will always show or indicate pain because, first of all, the floors are slippery. So when they are getting up, they have to use their, front paws or legs more. So then the shoulders get really stressed.
So swimming also does help if we add a swimming sessions along with the Bowen.
So, yes, you can do water. Water is a great healer, I feel, especially hydrotherapy. Now, we don't really have hydrotherapy as such in India. But yes, swimming is the next best option, is what I say. But water wears off the effect of therapy. So I'll always say that if, for instance, if I've done the session on a Monday, just give a gap of about 4-5 days before you make them swim, or you make them swim and then you get them to me. So the stress of, swimming, I can also release any kind of body ache or so a lot of dogs will do their swimming session maybe on a Friday and they'll come to me on a Saturday. So, so that's the process that we follow. So I totally believe in other like hydrotherapy, homeopathy, and all these. So I keep suggesting other modalities alongside.
I had a question. When in this hip dysplasia, number 4, which is like where they have to get operated. So is Bowen therapy safe post operation?
Yeah, once they have gone for rehab also, it's great because see, once you have done a surgery, you have done something invasive and you have cut through the fascia. So, it shortens. So when I release it, then, the recovery is faster. So post-operative, once stitches are out, it's a great therapy to do post-operative also.
Because people get scared after operation. Can we get this therapy
No,
or
so
not?
there are certain precautions. Of course, I would not, till the dog is totally healed post-surgery, I will not touch them.
Wonderful. Do you want to talk about any case of post surgery where the dog has felt a lot of relief, and what are the kind of relief a pet parent can expect for post surgery? I think Leo, I'm not too sure. One of our friend, Murphy Leo. So Leo, the golden retriever, I had met Leo's parent in the hospital. So then I had heard that he had multiple surgeries, and she wanted to leave him for the boarding and stuff. So that's how I could get the information that he had surgeries. I knew he had dysplasia because he was coming for swimming and stuff.
So Leo, even though at that point in time was much younger, and even at this point, I don't think he's very old, but he has very severe arthritis. So I think he has had surgeries for but I had only started seeing him for management. And at this point of time, I think just with therapy and with swimming, and I think very rarely he needs to sometime, because he's a very active dog. He loves playing. So, I think once in a while he does require a, painkiller because of his overactivity.
He loves diving. He loves swimming. He's such a
Yeah, so see, with dogs, it's very difficult to tell them, no, that okay, now play this much and don't play, so it's they'll go all out. So it's it is sometimes difficult to manage their physical outbursts.
I would wish you to give some tips to pet parents कि अर्ली स्टेज में वो कैसे इज देयर एनी सिम्टम्स जहाँ पर वो अर्ली स्टेज में they can find out hip dysplasia and probably come to you for the management?
Um, so not particularly for hip dysplasia. I would say that sometimes just indication of pain is, let's start with that. Let's not just talk about hip dysplasia. Sometimes we overlook those symptoms जो dog को actually pain है. We think temperament. Basic things like if your dog doesn't want to be picked up suddenly, that could be one indication of pain. Or suddenly you are saying that dekh rahe ho ke they don't want to play or do the usual kind of activities that they were doing. Or if somebody is trying to get near them, they are snarling or trying to be aloof. So these are indications that I always tell people that please look out. Don't think that the dog's temperament has changed. The first thing that people will say कि behavior change हो गया है. And so behavior
It's a
नहीं
very
change हुआ
bad
है.
misconception.
Yeah, so and hip dysplasia particularly is, like I had said before, if they are sitting and they're not sitting square, one leg is towards on either sides of the body, and maybe they require support to sit, and there is visible limping from that leg, and bunny hopping. When they'll, it'll look, bunny hopping means that, like how a rabbit runs, that's how. So these are your basic things to look out for. Suddenly, if you feel that the spine has a hump, like a hunch, forming, so there is some indication that maybe there is some issue with the hind leg or with the hip. So these are very basic things that are as a pet parent one can see. But then eventually or finally, so you need to get like an x-ray or you need to go to a vet to figure out that if there is an actual issue or not.
Any posture changes or observation that a parent should do when a dog is standing, also an indication that can help them to reach?
Because we look at our dogs, see our dogs all the time, people don't even realize that, there is some structural change that has happened. But because I'm seeing the dog as a third person or like, for the first time, lot of dogs, you will see that the hind leg is actually narrow. They will be broad in front and then the body will narrow down and, it'll become narrow, at the back. Means that they are overusing the front. So that is number one. Then second, you can see at the splaying of the paws, where, when I mean splaying is that the paws are the digits that they have of the paws. They're supposed to be closed. But once they start splaying means they are putting more pressure on the paws.
When you see the widened paws, you mean to say?
So actually the paws are supposed to be closed. So, but once they start widening over time or over, with age, is that they are using the forelegs more and more or the shoulders more and more. And most of the dogs, and a lot of people will say that my dog doesn't like the paws to be touched. That is because there is all pain that is sort of gone and settled in the paw pads. Then one thing that I always tell that check the paw pads of the foreleg and the hind leg. The foreleg will always be more coarse. The hind leg will be softer. So, these are small indicators. I'm not saying that it will be for every dog, but these are some indicators that you can, just look out for. But I do have to say that pet parents are becoming more and more open to, alternate for their dogs, and they are more tuned in, is what I would say. Because, they are family. They're like your children. So, they are actually quite tuned in more than sometimes their own human children.
Great.
I'm sure.
That's good.
So, what kind of problems do you face when you do Bowen with your own dogs? You had three lovely dogs.
But my oldest, Dashin Rusty, who's almost 12, he doesn't like it. And yeah, he doesn't like it, but I somehow force him because now he's sort of a little arthritic. And my beagle loves it because she's had IVDD, which is like a spinal issue. So she was paralyzed temporarily, and so I had managed her with Bowen, and of course with the veterinary protocol. She started walking pretty soon. She healed much faster than we thought she would, and so I manage her, and she loves it. And my youngest is she's about a year and a half, but because she's so playful and again a Dachshund and with long spines, so she's always jumping. So just to take care of her spine, I just do some management because she's very playful also.
I see her in every reel, especially she has a friend, right? Birdie. So Birdie is like a doll. You have to see her reels, and she is all over Birdie, like troubling him all the time. They're a good combination.
So what is IVDD?
So IVDD is basically intravertebral disc degeneration in medical terms, but it is equivalent for a layman to understand is like a slip disc in human beings. So this is a nerve compression which can happen in any part of the spine. It can be the lumbar, which is the lower, and middle, or or the cervical, which is the neck. Largely 90% of the cases we see is in the lumbar, which will lead to temporary paralysis of a dog where there'll be no there's no sensation in the hind legs. There is if it is very severe, then they will have bladder, they'll lose bladder control, and they are sort of peeing on themselves, and there is inflammation on that nerve. So it is a process. Basically, it takes anywhere from a month to 6 months for a dog to sort of recover. 6 months is the outer limit, depending on how far out the issue is. But usually in about 2 months or so, the dog will start walking. But it could be that they could be putting, weight on one leg and not on the other. And so it takes like I say, body to body, it's different. But usually between 1 to 4. 1 to 6 months is what we are looking at
To completely
to completely heal. Yeah, it's very scary for parents because the dog is paralyzed, right? And it's literally, it's not that it's building up. It is building up, like the symptoms are building up somewhere in the body, but it's literally the people will say that my dog had gone for a walk and now he's not getting up. So, or the dog jumped and now he's not getting up. So it's initially it is a little tough on the dogs also because it's a lot of pain in the spine or the nerve because there's inflammation, but they get better, which is a good part.
So that means the temporary paralysis can be healed.
Yeah, that
Can
can
be
be
healed.
reversed.
But
In this condition, yes.
in the
this-
early stages itself.
Yeah.
And if it is a permanent one, then it's going to
See,
be.
in IVDD, what we say is that the first 48 hours is the golden period. Golden period is that the 48 hours.
48 hours.
So means the diagnosis has to be bang on. The steroid has to be given in those 48 hours. If the steroid is somehow like, why the steroid could have not been given is that sometimes there is a misdiagnosis. What happens is that sometimes it can be overlapped as a muscle strain. Even in IVDD, sometimes the stomach bloats. So the doctor may suggest that, okay, give Digene. And this is what happened with my Lucy. The first symptoms was a stomach bloat. So the doctor said, okay, try Digene. If it doesn't settle, which it didn't settle, so you have to give the steroid in those 48 hours. After that, the effect of the steroid will become little slower. It's not that it will not affect, but what we look at that improvement, it may become a little slower. And mostly it happens because of the diagnosis has been little, it could be misdiagnosed as something else, is what
Yeah,
I'm
but even
saying.
for a common man, how can he understand the bloating that it can be IVDD? I mean, even for me, for me to understand, because we also do the same thing, right? In the normal world, as soon as we see there is a bloating in the stomach, so we think that it's a indigestion or gastric.
No, largely it is. I'm not saying that every dog will have a bloat. I'm just talking from my own personal experience. For my, my beagle, Lucy, she had a bloat, and that was her first indication, and where she refused to get up from her bed and refused to be touched because there was so much pain. And the previous night, she was absolutely fine. So, there was no way. And she was actually my first case of IVDD. So I had no experience as a therapist also of it. It was just when I had just started practicing way back in 2017, and this was like 2 months into my practice that she had. And I had just adopted her that year. So I had no idea about her, background also. So there were a lot of things that were playing at the, at the same time. So some dogs may have a bloat. Some dogs will indicate they don't want to be touched. Some dogs just can't get up. And the moment you touch them or you're even going near them, they will, cry in pain because the pain is so intense.
There's no postural difference on that.
Postural would be again not being able to maybe get up. That is what is the pain indication, is what we are looking at.
What is the diagnosis for this IVDD? What usually has to be?
So it doesn't show up in an X-ray because it's a nerve, and X-ray will always show bony structure. Doctors know with symptoms, and that it's IVDD. So, and CT scans is something that we very rarely do because you have to sort of sedate them and everything. So any experienced doctor can figure out that it's IVDD.
How did you conclude in Lucy's case?
I did not conclude. Dr. Bhavna did it for me.
Okay, okay.
I did not conclude.
So she just, she performed some tests and.
No, so this was all symptomatic, and we started a steroid immediately, and we had to basically pick her up. No, anyway, she could not walk, but even to pee and poop, she had to be lifted, taken to that spot. No walking, just complete rest. So, like, how humans are said, complete bed rest. It's the same with dogs when in these conditions. The more you will make them rest, the better they will and the faster they will recover. Alongside the other protocols that you're following as far as medicine and therapy, etc., is concerned.
So, and then you started working on Lucy on her bovine therapy. And then how long it took?
So she actually walked in 2 weeks. And that's how I was, then I started getting recommended as a parallel therapy, especially when these cases came to the clinics, So, yeah, so because they saw that it was faster recovery, they were doing whatever they had to do, and then I was doing what I had to do. So, the dog just got and walked fast earlier than expected. So that's what, so we work parallelly.
Great. I think we have got very good information about hip dysplasia, and I think this is a very good information to all the pet parents also to have a constant check and monitor their dogs, be it a puppy or be it an adult dog, and look at their symptoms, how they are, what kind of behavior they're having, and probably they can choose bovine therapy, which is more interesting rather than getting into all these medications for lifelong, right?
Yeah, they can definitely have bovine therapy along with the treatments what they are getting, and maybe see the improvements and get rid of the medicines if required, which is really great. And also the symptoms what you told a pet parent has to observe in their dogs, where they need not wait till the stage 4 and they can get back to therapists and doctors at stage 1. That's really helpful.
I think intention is to come back to basics rather than stuffing the dog with a lot of medicines and making him more weak day by day.
And the beautiful thing is allowing the dog's body to heal its own problem rather than getting that instant.
And also, what I'm now seeing is that, lot of, so for certain clients, I'd managed their older dogs, right? Like who are still there or some have passed on. So now they've got their other younger dogs. So now they have just started sending them for once a month maintenance, whether there is an issue or no issue, because they've seen that how the quality of their older dog, and lesser doctor visits, lesser painkillers, so they have just like started doing it as I would say like a feel good, feel good factor. So, when I, touch and feel the body, I can also tell them, I can give them a feedback, this is what I'm feeling. Is a dog jumping too much? I'm feeling the stiffness here. So then they are also mindful, okay, then they'll come back, the dog is jumping a lot or taking the stairs more than required. And so it's, if you make the base strong, when you have a puppy, that's the base level, right? So, we want them to live as long as possible. But having said that, you have to add life to those years also. No, it has to be a good quality life. So I do feel, and this is all feedback. This is not that what I'm saying, that people say that they feel that, there has been quality of life that has been added to their dogs, especially for senior dogs, whom they say that could have lived till 12 but has lived till 14 or 15. So, it just feels good that, I'm able to sort of help them.
Right.
You know what? In the beginning of the podcast, to be very honest with you, I thought, we can have the complete conversation in one episode. But the topic what we chose, hip dysplasia, I think it can go to a different level altogether because it needs a lot of time. I think definitely we need to have another episode to talk about all problems. But can you just, in this short time, can you please help us? What all other problems can Bowen therapy help to manage or to cure? So let's break this down. If you can give any specific problems which can be cured and specific problems which can be managed lifelong. So let's break it down.
See, largely, like I always say, that I cannot reverse, woven therapy cannot reverse, except for in cases, like I said, in IVDD, where there is a temporary paralysis, and I know that the paralysis will reverse, right? But having said that, the dog can have, IVDD can occur again. The reoccurrence can happen. So, but yes, because we are managing the dog with boven or, with laser, so it may happen that, in spite of the dog walking, after they started walking, the people will, they'll still send them for maintenance, because the reoccurrence is like a 90% chance the dog will have a reoccurrence. But because we are managing them, then we are at least keeping them in that safe zone where, that the spine is sort of getting, the spine health is being taken care of. So as far as reversal is concerned, this is the only thing that I would say as a diagnosis, that yes, it can sort of, reverse the paralysis. But any kind of other things like, arthritis and hip dysplasia, ligament tears, of course, will get okay, because, ligament will take its time to heal. It can take anywhere from like 3 to 9 months for complete healing, but it will happen. So that is something that one can, say that it can be reversed. But even with ligament tears, I've seen that there will be some kind of pain area that may stay even after it's completely. The body will never go back to 100% original, is what I have seen. It's not possible. Once there has been an injury, you will always have a little bit of a niggle, or you'll have
Change, yeah.
the change of weather, maybe, or change of weight, or could be any kind of disease, or the dog is unwell. So reversal is something that I would not commit to as far as this therapy is concerned.
So is it right to say that if there is a ligament tear, if it takes 9 months or 10 months with normal procedure, Bowen therapy can actually reduce the time?
Yes, it can reduce the time, and it can also, I would say, also reduce the pain of what they are dealing. Because see, with ligament tears, you can't make a dog rest, right? And in ligament tears, you require rest. So with their activity, reduced activity, but still, managing them and trying not that they're not on painkillers largely, because I always say that boven is a pain management therapy as well, and a mobility. So that is so it it's very difficult to put everything in like on a timeline. Every dog and every body will respond differently to an issue.
Got it.
So what other problems can Bowen help?
Largely, I would say anything to do with the skeletal, like any arthritis, any, we've already spoken about hip dysplasia, then ligament and ACL and CCL, or luxating patella, which is also a very common issue, which is like, so we have the patella, which is the knee. So it slips out of the groove. So that again has grades, which we will talk maybe later. But yes, we can manage those symptoms also. Yeah.
What is ACL and
ACL and CCL are basically all kind of like different kind of ligament tears of different parts of the body. So
I also want to talk to you. Maybe we will talk about atrophy, the loss of muscles in the old age. I really want to understand about that, and there are a lot of things to.
From the muscle loss perspective,
Yeah.
I think we should be talking
There-
about that
there's
as
a
well.
lot of things to discuss.
So normal in daily life, the normal problems what we get, like fever, gastric, or bloating for that matter, um, uh, small other problems what we get in the daily life, those can be treated.
Like I said, that would not be my first point of diagnosis to call a dog. Like if, it could be the dog has, like they'll come to me for a structural issue, and this could be a good side effect where these things could settle, could or could not. Yeah, so there is no guarantee, but largely I've seen that gastric issues do settle for dogs because at any given point of time, like I said, I'm working on the whole body, which includes the, abdomen and the stomach and everything. So they do become better, but these are not something that I would say that as a bovine therapist I can, work on.
I had one last question. I can't skip this for the next episode because it's very important. When we say that bovine therapy works on the nervous system, also nerves and stuffs, how effective is it for epilepsy? Dogs who get epilepsy.
So not all dogs will respond well to bovine when they have epilepsy, because we don't know, first of all, what is the trigger for epilepsy. And if I touch, like if I have worked on the dog, so with epilepsy, what I've seen in my few cases that I have managed is that the frequency of the seizures, the gap between the seizures may increase, which is good. The recovery may be better, but it doesn't stop. But having said that, there have been certain cases, one or two, where the frequency has increased, so where I've had to discontinue.
I think increasing the frequency is also a
Yeah, it is.
better thing, right?
Yes.
Instead of so that means there's a
Increasing the
specific pill.
frequency, in the sense she said the epilepsy has occurred faster. Is
No, as in the gap between one seizure, the days between.
I thought it was a. I mean, you.
No, no,
that-
no. So
okay.
basically, what she's saying is, usually if dog is getting seizure twice, once a week, now that has increased to twice a week or thrice a week. Sorry,
Once in 2-3
once in
weeks.
Got it. I got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
understood your emotion.
Yeah, but some dogs, they get aggravation, so then I have to discontinue.
So when you're treating specifically for this epilepsy, there is a specific pill usually doctors prefer, Gardinal or CBD oil, that also will be.
That they have to continue, because I think once the system gets used to Gardnerol, in cases of epilepsy, we are just not able to get them off medication. The body just gets used to it. Unless you don't put them on these medications and you already start on alternate, then there is a chance that but once they are on Cardinal and all on different kind of medicines, I've very rarely seen that the dog has been, maybe the how do I say, the measure of the medicine may have reduced, but largely I've not seen any dog get off medications.
Great. I think, like I said, I have too many questions from all the problems perspective, but I think we should be having another session, probably, or conversation very soon.
Yeah.
But for this episode, I think this is what we have. But I would just like you, if you have any message for pet parents, I would be more happy if you have any messages for pet parents.
What kind of message?
Anything that
I mean, even if you don't have, that's okay. We can cut it. So, from your perspective,
anything that you want them to be more careful about, if or they can approach you, kind of a thing.
So I always request my clients that please cover your floors. They are slippery. We are living in apartments and with floors which have marbles and vitrified tiles. They are not good for your dogs. So I know it's impossible to cover the whole flooring, but as much possible, this is a request that I always have for dogs, to save their joints and their bones. That's all.
great. I think I personally learned many things today about Bowen therapy, but like I said, there are too many questions popping up as and when you were talking. We'll have one more conversation, but I personally enjoyed this conversation, honestly speaking, and learned many things.
Yeah.
So do you, I believe, right?
Absolutely. I always
So,
enjoy talking to Nisha
yeah,
because there's always new exploring happening, and she always tells something or the other,
that's
which is
great.
very interesting. So
Thanks a lot, Nisha, for coming
Thank you for
to us
having me.
and
It was great.
providing more information. And I think we need more information coming in our next episode. But for today, it was really great talking to you. And I hope you had the same
Yes,
enjoyment.
absolutely. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so
I
much.
hope people get more aware about Bowen therapy.
That's the major and important thing why
Yeah.
we are doing the podcast. And that's the beauty of the podcast, right? Providing all the information, necessary information to all the animal lovers, especially.
So, guys, it is Bowen therapy, Bowen, and it's for dogs, especially what we are talking about. Uh, so, I hope I have made it clear because people get really confused. What is Bowen therapy? It was really nice having you on the show, Nisha.
Thank
You
you,
so much for
Asha.
coming and giving us such beautiful insights about Bowen therapy. Bye till next time.
Bye.
See you.
Till next time, yes.